Good day everyone, Omar here, and in this video guys, I'm testing and comparing the Sony a7s III and the a7 III camera in video mode. We'll do some tests side by side and we'll go through the video specs as well as the differences so you make up your mind if the a7s III camera is the best for you. The a7s III is a hybrid video dedicated camera and selling at this time for $3,500. Whereas the a7 III is a photo/video camera and selling nowadays at $1,700. It's a very good camera by the way. It was released 3 years ago and as you know technology is changed by time, and in this video we'll check if the a7 III can hold it with the a7s III. So this is not a fair neither a scientific comparison. I will make some tests and will let you know my personal experience and feedback. I'm sure there are a lot of you guys who would like to know the difference and if the upgrade is a good jump. Now first we'll start with the camera design and some features and then we'll jump to the real world test. The new camera has several improvements over the 3 years old a7 III. The a7s III features a larger and deeper hand grip. Although the grip looks just a bit deeper, it feels way more better than the a7 III grip. So, one of the first body differences is the buttons. They are a little bit bigger in the new camera, so you really feel them. They are actual buttons. Also, the record button had moved to the top, and that's the right place for a record button so far. Adjusting the modes and dials is also a bit different. On the a7s III, we should click the dial center button in order to change the modes, and probably it's made in the first place to prevent it changing the mode by mistake. Now the a7s III supports UHS 2 SD cards in both slots. The a7 III on the other hand features only one slot, UHS 2, and the other slot is UHS 1. A multi-angle LCD touchscreen with a spectacular 1.44 million dots resolution. The a7 III screen resolution on the other hand is way lower. Guess. It's just 0.9 million dots. 1.44 million, 0.9 million dots. Now in the a7s III menu, you can touch to navigate, whereas the old a7 III camera only has touch to focus. Touch doesn't work in camera menu. And speaking of the menu, the a7 III features a new menu design, as well as some new useful functions, such as file name format, so you can set video names yourself in the camera. And when testing both cameras in real world, I can remarkably notice that the a7s III camera has better colors and better skin tone. Same camera settings and white balance were used in both tests. Here I'm doing HLG2 profile picture. I'm gonna leave for you guys some video samples free to download, links are in the description. And before continue watching the video, I would like to introduce you to our new lots for HLG2 profile picture. Now you can pick them at a reasonable price. Head off to omagamrawi.com/store and get yours now. And by the way, here I'm using a new camera rig from Ulanzi, so if you are interested and would like to know more, check out my review up here, or check the links down below. Now when it comes to the video specs, there are a lot to say here. First of all, the new a7s III camera has a video eye autofocus and a slightly better autofocus system. We also have 4K 60 and 4K 120 frames per second with 1.1 crop factor. But make sure to get the correct SD card for this type of videos. You need CF Express Type A card or at least a V90 speed SD card. Now the a7 III on the other hand can only do 4K 30 frames per second. And in 1080, the a7s III camera can make 240 frames per second, while we get 120 frames per second in the a7 III. Anyway, the A7s III has a higher bitrate, which means higher video quality. So we get 4:2 10-bit internal recording. That's a higher color data, H.265 and all-I H.264. In 4K, you can choose a variety of bitrate options from 60 to 600 megabit per second. The A7 III, on the other hand, has only a bitrate of 60 and 100 megabit per second, which is, in my opinion, a fair video quality. No doubt, higher bitrates will help you more in color grading. Now with the external recorders, the A7s III with full HDMI port can record 16-bit RAW video, while the A7 III can output only 8-bit 4:2 only. Finally, unlike the A7 III, the A7s camera has no video recording limit. The A7s III has a 12 megapixel sensor. Although 12 megapixel sounds quite low, it's more than efficient for a video shooter, because smaller sensors have less overheat and has also better high ISO capabilities. So in the A7s camera, we get a standard ISO from 80 to 102,400. The A7 III can do from 100 to 51,200 native ISO. Those numbers are extendable, and if you like to watch the low-light ISO test side by side between both cameras, click the card up right. The A7s III sensor is about 8 times faster than the A7 III sensor, and when doing fast panning, rolling shutter is a serious problem in mirrorless cameras. So here we're testing both cameras, rolling shutter in 4K, and now rolling shutter in 1080. Now I'm testing video dynamic range. The first experiment is in HLG2. Same camera and white balance settings were applied in both cameras. Here I am at -2 stops and will try to recover that in post. Now as we see, both cameras did a good job. However, the A7s III produced better color tone compared to the A7 III. Now when recovering +2 stops, both cameras have lost a significant amount of contrast and saturation. Guys, this is not a scientific comparison, we're just playing with the cameras and check the difference. Well, now in S-Log2, from my perspective, the A7s III camera at -2 stops is way better than the A7 III. See how much the A7s III has better colors after recovery. The A7 III is also noisy due to the 800 native ISO in S-Log2. While in the +2 stops recovery, and regardless the color tone, the A7 III is doing a better job than the situation we faced earlier in -2 stops. Now both cameras has very similar IBIS, sensor stabilization, in-body image stabilization, or whatever you call it. 5.5 stops in the A7s and 5 stops in the A7. And to be honest, when testing both cameras side by side, I can tell I felt a slight difference in stabilization. The A7s is like slightly better than the A7. In addition, the A7s features the stabilization active mode. Basically, it offers more stabilization but with 1.1 times sensor crop. Now when testing both cameras, both of them has very good autofocus systems. And I didn't notice a significant difference, but I believe the A7s autofocus is slightly better. However, both cameras share the same profile pictures, HLG1, 2, HLG3, S-Log2, and S-Log3, but the A7s III native ISO in S-Log2 and S-Log3 is only ISO 160. Indeed, this is a significant improvement in the A7s III camera, while the A7 III native ISO is ISO 800, which is really bad, in my opinion, because higher ISO requires darker ND filters in bright light. Also, Sony mentions that the S-Gamut3 and S-Gamut3 Sign colors have been improved in the new camera to match the Sony Cinema Line cameras. Although this review is dedicated for video performance, I should highlight that the A7s III camera in still mode features HEIF 420 and HEIF 422 image format. which are quite better than JPEG files in terms of colors and compression. Indeed, the A7s III is a great hybrid video camera, but if you cannot afford it, the A7 III on the other hand can do a very good job. The price is also challenging, but if you need the extra spices and topping, you need to pay for this guy. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope this video helped in making your decision, and if you would like to watch more cameras and lenses reviews, we have a bunch of them here on the channel. Show me a thumbs up and bump the subscribe button for more camera gear reviews. This was Oma, and see you guys in another one.